Hello everyone, welcome back to Beauty and Wood Designs. Last video I left off after turning this big beautiful bowl. This is Spalted box elter, and you'll recall at the end of that video I said that this half of the bowl up here is very punky. This half down here is much more solid. Even when it's in this state where it's perfectly turned into a round shape, it actually is out of balance on the lathe because this side has so much less mass than this side. So I want to show you a close-up of that wood. You can see the beautiful spalting lines in here. But you can see on this side, get it so it's right there. You can see that this is much plainer. Right here is where I had to stabilize with some CA glue, and there's a big, sort of bug hole there.
So I'm using a two-part epoxy here. Super important to wear gloves. This stuff is really nasty on your hands. Now I'm using a timer. It's also very important that you get a good mix. I mix it for 5 minutes just to make sure that it is all equally distributed and there aren't any pockets of hardener.
Now you're going to notice that there's some bubbles in this, right? You'll find some videos on YouTube that say, oh, if you just stir it slowly, you won't have bubbles. I've never, ever been able to stir up epoxy without having some bubbles of some kind. I do find that using a round stir stick rather than like a flat stick does really help reduce the number of bubbles, but it doesn't eliminate it. Now, you'll also see that I have a heat gun here. This is your basic $12 Harbor Freight heat gun. It works just fine for this. You're going to use that to pop those bubbles as soon as you get them on. And then I also use these like 10-cent Harbor Freight chip brushes for coating epoxy or for putting it on. They work enormously well. They're really, really good for that because they're cheap and you can just throw them away afterwards.
The actual process of putting this epoxy on is pretty simple. You put it on with a brush, you heat it with the heat gun to pop any bubbles. In this first couple of coats, the punky wood really soaks that in. So half of it is very shiny at the end and half of it is very dull. So it takes multiple coats. I had originally planned to use my lathe as a final step to spin the bowl so that it would eliminate runs, it would smooth out the epoxy surface. I've had some issues in the past with those things. But I decided to go ahead and design and build a little machine that I've had in mind for this for quite some time. So I sketched it out first. And you're going to see me in a second. I'm going to be fitting some of the parts to it. One is just a standard, I think it's a 4-inch Lazy Susan. Got it off of Amazon, but you can get it anywhere. I did get this little 12-volt high torque 20 RPM motor off of Amazon as well. I'll put a link to that in the description as well.
This is the final product. Looks a little rough, I know. It's got lines and screw holes on it, but it's solid. Now, you'll notice if I show you in here, there's that little 12-volt motor. It's just got 2 wires on it. The power supply that I bought came with this little adapter. It's got some set screws back here. So all you need to do is just connect it up like that. And basically what I've done here is I've created an adapter. Now you can probably buy something that's better. This is probably not great, but it's just got a slot cut in the top of it. And then you can see that I have created a base, which this is just hot glued to at the moment. But this plywood base just has a screw in there that it fits next to. And then this is just a Lazy Susan with the tabs cut off so that it spins pretty freely. Here is actually just as easy as lining up that hole and then turning it until it engages that pin. Now, this is a pretty heavy piece. This is probably like one of the heaviest pieces that I will ever do. So there is a little bit of binding when I turn it. But even so, having that motion will make a glass smooth surface. Okay, there is the finished product. And you can see how silky smooth that finish is and how really beautiful the wood is. So I would have to say that the little device I made to spin this was very, very successful. I will put a link to all the parts in the description. I hope you liked this video. I hope you subscribe or like if you did, and I will see you next time.